Hello everyone, myself Pallavi Patil from Praveen Patil College of Diploma Engineering and Technology. In last video, we saw Unit 2, that is installation and configuration Android. In that, we learned Android Studio, Android development tools, Android virtual device, emulator, DVM and difference between the DVM and GVM. In this video, we will learn the remaining part of Unit 2, the installation of the Android. What are the outcomes of this video? Learner will be able to understand step to install and configure the Android Studio and SDK. Let's see the first, the installation and configuration Android Studio SDK. Step 1, first download the Android Studio. Step 2, you must ensure that your computer has installed Java version 7 or higher. Here I have the installed Java version 8. Step 3, Android virtual device, that is AVD. It is decide the configuration that is run with Android emulator. It is work with emulator to provide virtual device specify environment in which to install and run the Android apps. Step 4, select and install the directory like Android Studio installation location like a D dev programs and Android Studio. Next is Android SDK install location like a D dev program and Android SDK. Step 5, you have successfully installed the Android Studio. Step 6, at the first run, the Android Studio asks you whether import the setting of Android Studio, the version that you have may install in advance or not. You can select no. Select SDK folder that you have installed the previous step. The new SDK complete will be updated in this directory. Let's see the first. The system require you will be how you start your Android application development on either on the following operating like a Microsoft Windows like a 10, 8, 7 Vista. You may have 32 or 64 bit. The second is a setup Android Studio. Like a Android Studio is the official IDE for the Android application development. It works based on the install IDE. You can download the latest version Android Studio from the Android Studio 2.2 download. Next, if you're installing the Android Studio Mac, Linux, you can download the latest version from the Android Studio Mac download and Android Studio Linux download. Check the instruction provide along the download files. So let's launch, and next is a store the download file, that is Android Studio, in a C drive like a C development program.java. Next, so let's launch Android Studio.exe. Make sure before the launch Android Studio, our machine should require installation Java JDK. To install Java JDK, take a reference of Android environment setting. Once you launch Android Studio, it's time to mention JDK 7 path or later version and Android Studio installation. Then click the next. Next, to need to check the component which are required to create the application below image is Android Studio, Android SDK, Android virtual device and performance. You choose the Android SDK and Android virtual device. Select the component and next. Next, Android Studio setup. Press down and agree. I agree. Click the I agree. Next, need to specify the location of local path for the Android Studio and Android SDK. This image like has taken is default location of the Windows 8.1 and 16.bit. You should add a location. Choose the start menu folder. Choose the start menu folder Android Studio shortcut and Android Studio and install. Now install is completed. Installation is complete. Setup the was a complete is a successfully. The complete Android Studio setup. Android Studio has been installed on your computer and click the Start Android Studio and finish. The fine After done all the steps perfectly, you must get finish button and then on a same Android Studio project with welcome to Android Studio message show below. Next, you can import your setting from the previous version like I want to import my setting on the from the custom location. Okay, no, I don't have the previous version of the studio. I don't want to import my setting. Then okay. The next Android Studio setup wizard. Welcome this wizard will set up your development environment Android Studio. Okay, next. Click the next button. Then install type. Choose the types of setup you want to Android Studio. Like a standard, no. You choose custom. You customize installation setting and the component install. Then next. Android Studio, like a setup and next. Now set up the SDK component setup. Check the component you want to update and install and click the next and continue. Click the next button. The emulator setting. This is the Android Studio setup wizard and it is emulator. We have to dictate your system can run Android emulator accelerator performance mode. Click the next button and verify the setting. Check your setting. SDK component downloaded. Setup type custom SDK folder D dot development program. Okay, right. Total download size. Okay. SDK component downloaded. Android emulator SDK build tool. SDK platform tools. Android SDK API. Internet X6 emulator accelerator. Okay. Then finish. Download completed. Okay. Downloading component like a Android Studio setup wizard. Then cancel. Next download component Android Studio setup. Finish. Download component. This is a final. Finish. After click the finish. If before writing any code like a hello world code, you must have about the XML tag to write hello world code and you should be redirect to the Apex layout activity. Thank you. Dear student, you have any doubt, unit 2, part 3. You have any doubt, then you note down your problem, note down your query. We will solve your doubt in upcoming online session. And again, in online session, we install Android. In live, we install Android and SDK. Thank you.